Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Royals Rundown Podcast presented by Royals Review. I am Jacob Milham, happy to be back and happy to be talking tonight alongside the one and only Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, happy Sunday and happy hey. We're recording minutes after the Royals salvage the series and avoid the sweep. How are we feeling?
I mean, it's funny because I think we're both feeling a lot better than if the Royals had won yesterday and lost today, but it would have been the same, right? It would have been
Yeah.
two losses and a win. So, it's a little bit of I feel good. I like the win. And honestly, I wondered if the little 2 runs they got against Emmanuel Clase might spark a little something today. And they only got 4 runs, which isn't many.
No.
In the grand scheme of things, but they did get 4 runs, which is greater than their season average, and they got a bunch of hits. It feels like maybe things are starting to come together. I'm just going to go straight for it because one of the things we wanted to talk about today was the offensive struggles. So Bobby's not struggling.
No, he's not.
Struggles in Bobby land. After a cold first few days, he's been all over Bobby Town doing Bobby things. It's a Bobby world.
We're all just living in it.
That's a song parody I think I'm going to have to write now, actually.
Yeah, please do.
And then, Vinny had 3 hits yesterday, came up with 1 or 2 more today.
Yeah, I think he at least reached base multiple times today. Let me pull up the box.
He had a walk and a hit.
Yeah, he had a walk and a hit today.
And Salvi only had 1 hit, but it was a big home run.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Salvi, I'm still really concerned about. He does have a 4-game hitting streak now, but it's 1 hit per game. So it was a big hit today, but it's still only 1 hit. We need Salvi if he's going to be batting 4th and he's going to be in the lineup every single dang day. Somebody on my Blue Sky was like, "Why can't Salvi get a whole day off?" And I'm like, "Because he doesn't want to, and the team won't make him." I mean, that's the answer to that question. He doesn't want it, and the team won't make him. So, but if he's gonna be batting 4th every single dang day, he's got to get some more hits.
Yep, that he does.
So obviously we've got the obvious guys are obvious. Hunter Renfroe now has a 363 OPS on the season. MJ Melendez has a 285 OPS. That would be a good batting average.
It would be. It'd be great, actually.
But as an OPS,
not
is
good, Bob.
Unplayably bad. And yet he's batting 7th, and he's only missed a handful of games so far this year.
Yeah, it's we've seen a lot of fans rejoice when one of the two is out of the lineup. We got a glimpse at what a lineup looks like when both of them are out of not starting the game, but unfortunately Jonathan India's injury, I think, kind of forced the issue, Melendez back in the left field.
Forced it because Tyler Tolbert isn't allowed to bat.
Nope, only run.
I mean, for whatever reason, that spot in the roster, not allowed to bat. Darwin Blanco, not allowed to bat. Doesn't matter that he hits reasonably well when he's allowed to bat, not allowed to bat. Tyler Tolbert, not allowed to bat. Drew Waters got a couple starts when he first came up. No, he can't play today.
Yeah, he's only appeared in 3 games this year, but he does have 2 hits in those. He's batting average sitting at 250. That's I would say that's better than any Royals outfielder, but Kyle Isbell down there red hot at the bottom of the lineup having a 3-game hit today, or a 3-hit game.
There you go.
Excuse me, sorry. His OPS is now up to a glowing 692. I mean he's the gold standard.
You can live with a 692 OPS from a guy who plays defense as well as he does, batting 9th. If your 5 through 8 hitters aren't all over, which is what happened today. All the offense came from the 9 and 1 hitters.
Mm-hmm. That it did.
It was the Isbel Garcia show today.
It really was.
And Witt, Pasquantino, and Salvi each had 1 hit, and that was enough to get it done.
That it was.
At least Fermin had a walk, and I'm not going to bang too hard on Massey, though. Boy, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Not a good day for Michael Massey, and he only has a 479 OPS. We might be talking more about how much he struggled if it weren't for the fact that Melendez and Renfroe are still on this team.
Exactly. Yeah, they are. I think these 2 things can be true. Michael Massey's performance is concerning, but it's not the biggest concern. in the Royals lineup right now. I mean, you go and look at the numbers. The Royals right now, they're WOBA tied for the worst in the AL next to the Chicago White Sox. I mean, when you have a 69 WRC plus, when I mean the top four guys, they're not doing great, but they've turned it around the past couple of games. Still, across this entire season, the lineup posting a 69 WRC plus is just absolutely terrible and pretty inexcusable. I would say, when there are some other solid options, when it feels like at this point in the season there is no hot seat, there is no player that is like, you need to start producing or you're done. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like there's anybody on the hot seat. Am I wrong there, Jeremy?
Just doesn't seem that way to me either. Like I said, Tyler Tolbert and Drew Waters can't buy an at bat. And MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfroe, at least one of them, are in there every single day. I think there was one game where neither of them started so far this season. That is unacceptable.
It is.
And I mean, it's kind of a two-pronged problem of roster construction. Hello, JJ Piccolo. Can you give John Rave a call? I get it. He's how old is he now? I lost it. I had his numbers pulled up and I lost them.
Oh no,
Okay,
27. He is
I'm a disaster.
27. You're fine.
27 years old. He is, he's tearing the cover off the ball right now. It's probably powered by the 393 BABIP, which is way above his career norms. So 394 BABIP, excuse me, way high for him. But still, like, try something. Can we try something? Anything? He's got the Zips projections for him. If he came up and played 126 games this year, he would be projected to 676 OPS. Not great, but a 1.2 WAR because he could play defense and he could run.
Yeah.
And he'll take some walks. That's Zips. Zips is traditionally, in my opinion, pretty conservative when it comes
Usually
to prospects and how much you would expect them to do. Steamer projects him to an 82 WRC plus. Again, these are not earth-shattering numbers, but they're much better than anything we're getting from Melendez and Renfroe right now, and it assumes that he can't come up and carry the hot hitting he's been doing in Omaha for a couple of weeks. Like, just anything right now out of a corner outfield spot would be, even Jonathan India before he got hurt, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. I think his OPS, his WRC plus were not good. His OBP was a 330 something, so he was still getting on base, but his when your slugging is below your OBP, which his is, that is very concerning.
Yes.
And we've talked during the off season that Jonathan India, one of the things about him is he doesn't have a lot of power, and we were hoping he would show some of that gap power that he might have in Kauffman. Hasn't happened so far. Doesn't mean it can't, especially if the rest of the lineup would do some hitting. It would take some pressure off of him. So I still have a lot of faith in Jonathan India. I still think that there's a lot of good to come from Jonathan India. But even he in a corner outfield spot is not lighting the world on fire right now. But we would take it over Melendez and Renfroe.
Yes, we certainly would. I do think that you bring up the roster construction, which is, out there on our social media channels. I kind of jokingly put up a tweet that a lot of people were like, oh, well, thank you for saying this, because I didn't know it. I just blatantly said, no, the Royals can't just option Hunter Renfroe to Omaha. No, they can't just option Chris Stratton to Omaha. There are rules. They have enough service time to where those options have to be done with their consent. Okay? And frankly, players aren't stupid. They know that. They know that their leash is going to be a little bit longer than a guy like MJ Melendez. You would think so, but it seems like his is just a spool that Matt Cotrero has thrown off the ship, and you still see it spinning going out there.
It's a black hole where the closer it gets to the center, the more time elongates, and we never actually get there.
No, exactly. I thank you, DeGrasse Tyson, for that. One thing that is frustrating about the roster construction talk is because there are more outfielders available on the Royals 40-man roster, right? Like right now, it seems like it would be a little tough for, like, okay, well, who's going to leave the 40-man roster? Who are we willing to cut bait on,
All right,
possibly?
go on the 60-man IL for one thing.
Yeah.
60-man, 60-day.
60-day. That would solve some things. But according to Andy Rogers, it does at least sound like he is progressing down in Arizona, not close to major league action, but at least he is progressing in the right direction towards returning to the field. But my point is, the outfielders in Omaha, outside of John Rave, are pretty bad. I mean, you already have Tyler Gentry on this 40-man roster. You already have Joey Weimer on this 40-man roster. Those two guys together, their batting average is 319. All right, those combined, 160 plus 159. That is pretty atrocious. And then two guys who could play the outfield that were formerly on the 40-man roster, and Nelson Velasquez, Nick Prado, they are doing even worse. Velasquez has a 115 batting average, and Prado has a cool 100 with 14 strikeouts in 30 at-bats, which is par for the course for him. If you go and you listen to, say, like the post-game show with Josh Vernier, highly suggest it. There is going to be a lot of folks who think that there's one quick fix to this offense. Jeremy, tell me if I'm wrong, but there isn't a quick fix to this lineup.
There's not a quick fix, but there are band-aids that could be applied.
There are.
Drew Waters could play more. I mean, Melendez's WRC plus after today is -14.
Oof.
-14. It is really, really, really hard to have a negative WRC plus.
It is.
It is really hard to do that over the course of multiple games. Melendez is doing it right now. And his defense scores, his base running scores on Fangraphs are awful. Drew Waters is somehow already negative 0.2 FWAR in his 3 games, but that's still better than Melendez. That's the situation we're in right now. It's Melendez is so far below replacement level that you could bring someone in below replacement level and still improve.
Yes. And it sounds like we're broken record from 2024. And that was kind of I got a weird deja vu feeling when we saw today's lineup come out. And it really hit home for me how little has changed in the batting order and the available players who we can expect to see play, because Garcia back there at the leadoff spot, Melendez and Renfroe at the corner outfield. Today's lineup without Jonathan India and no other players getting an opportunity, it felt like a redo of 2024, and we all saw how that story played out last year. None of these guys are playing better or differently enough. I think that fans at this point could find some solace if Hunter Renfroe or MJ Melendez at least gave us a couple of moments where okay, hold on, they might be progressing, they might be doing some things right. Meanwhile, you got freaking MJ Melendez out there swinging and missing at 91 mile an hour fastballs in the top of the zone. He is swinging and missing over and over and over again in the zone. And it is very tough to watch. It is very painful to watch. And Hunter Renfroe's doing the same thing, unfortunately. Now, Michael Massey was doing it as well today, but we're not here talking about him, are we? We're talking about these two guys.
I will at least give Hunter Renfroe and Michael Massey that they're not swinging and missing as much as Melendez. Let me find his whiff rate real quick, but it's not good. I was just looking. I remembered Kevin Biggio is also on this roster, also not hitting well, also would be an improvement over Melendez and Renfroe in the outfield. So let me pull up MJ Melendez's numbers and find that whiff rate for you.
Okay,
go ahead.
You. I would appreciate it. While you're doing that, Jeremy, we're getting a little bit what's the word?
18% swinging strike percentage.
There you go.
18%.
That's a lot. That is a lot.
I'm pretty sure that's tops in the big leagues.
It has to be, which, to your credit, his whiff rate right now, I don't have the number in front of me, but I do know it's in the first percentile in baseball for MJ Melendez.
That's the swinging strike. That's the whiff rate.
Whiff. Yeah. For all the folks who think that Salvador Perez is bad at it, at least Salvi is in the 27th percentile. And you saw today why he swings and chases so much is because when he gets a hold of the ball sometimes, it goes a long, long way, and it can be the difference in a game. While we're talking about Salvi, you did bring up that you were a little concerned about
Yeah.
him, and frankly, you're not the only one. Folks have been saying the bat speed, some of the processes look more like the 2023 Salvi than the one that we saw in 2024. The version that we thought had turned back the clock a little bit could at least be a contributor in the four hole. And just so far, he's not doing great this year. But if it's any solace for folks, Salvi has like one of the biggest disparities between his expected weighted on base average and his actual weighted on base average. I think last I looked, it was the third biggest negative disparity in all of baseball, which is pretty crazy. Right now, his ex Woba is second on the team, only behind Bobby Witt Jr., and it sits in the 72nd percentile in baseball. So that's I don't know. I'm trying to find some sort of silver lining with some of these struggles. I really thought that Mark Canna would be like a more of a regular solution. Unfortunately, he's on the sideline right now. Jonathan India, he started off really hot, but he's really cooled down the past week or so, and he's on the sideline. And hey, I don't know, Jeremy. It's really concerning and it's really frustrating.
So here's my answer to this is when Mark Canna comes back, he's starting every day.
I think he has to.
And I think John Rave, I think you're worried about a 40-man spot? Cut Renfro. Cut him.
Yeah,
Cut Renfro, call up Rave, demote Melendez, promote Gentry. I don't care.
something
If
different.
you care about Melendez, if you're like, man, NJ, we think you still have something in you, demote him and let him try AAA pitching for a little bit and see if he can get something figured out there
Yeah, I
with
I
the new
think
swing.
I think that's a fair
And
expectation.
then you could demote Gentry when Canna comes back. And you're gonna have Kevin Biggio. Gentry's not gonna be your starter. You're gonna have Kevin Biggio, Jonathan India starting in left field until and Gentry's there to play against lefties sometimes. Maybe I
Yeah,
don't know.
just something different. Please, oh please, oh
Maybe
please.
Gentry platoons with Rave.
Yeah, maybe so.
You have Rave, and Biggio, and then you have Gentry and Waters. I don't know.
Well, we'll have to see what they do if they do anything differently. I will let's go to things that have happened on the transaction wire for the Kansas City Royals. Since our last episode, there have been two major moves, two major injuries and corresponding moves. First off, Hunter Harvey landed on the IL. He is no longer active right now for a little bit. But Steven Cruz, a guy that we like on the podcast, got called up. He's been doing good things, and I think he's made two appearances
Two
since
appearances,
he
two
since he
scoreless
rejoined.
appearances.
Yeah, two scoreless
Inning and two-thirds
appearances.
with 2 strikeouts, 1 walk, no hits.
I'll take that for a middle leverage sort of guy. He's been doing good, and then another bullpen arm who I want to preface this. We don't condone teams making up injuries. We don't condone it, but
I don't think they made the injury up.
I don't think
The
they
way
did
he was
either.
throwing yesterday, he was missing high consistently, which sounds like a guy who's not finishing his pitches, which
Yes,
sounds like a guy who's hurt.
correct. And we're talking about Sam Long here, who landed on the 15-day IL with left elbow inflammation. So, anything with the throwing elbow is a big concern for any pitcher at any level. The corresponding move there was the trade partner, or excuse me, the trade compadre with Steven Cruz, Evan Sisk, finally joining the Royals 26-man roster for the first
Wait,
time in his career.
how about that trade? Michael A. Taylor
looks
for
better.
2 future relievers. I mean, if they have any success and Steven Cruz is starting off this year well, Evan Sisk looked really good in the minors last year. If they have any success, that's a good trade for 1 year of Michael A. Taylor.
It is. It absolutely is. And I
I
think
mean,
that
it's no Mike Clevenger to the Padres trade, but what trade is?
that's a really high bar, Jeremy. Okay, let's be realistic here. Come on now. I will say, there's I'm not gonna call it a win quite yet, because my reasoning behind that is Michael A. Taylor did have a good season for Minnesota Twins. He was only there for 1 year, but a 2 FWAR season from a outfielder of his caliber is a great season.
But the point from the Royals' perspective is that it didn't matter how good he was. He wasn't going to help that Royals team.
No, he
So
wasn't.
if you've got a couple relievers who can help this Royals team for a guy who wasn't going to help you no matter how well he did, then you won. You won that trade.
Yes.
Now
Okay.
maybe both teams won because the Twins probably don't care about Steven Cruz and Evan Sisk at this point, but Michael A. Taylor helped them play well that year. I think
Yeah.
they made the playoffs that season.
I believe they did as well.
Knocked out by the Yankees, but whatever.
But we're not here to talk about that. I don't know. I think this was a merciful IL trip for Sam Long. I hope that he can refine his 2024 form because he was a good guy coming out of the bullpen. I'm not saying he was the Royals' best relief option, but he like this year it's been okay. Well, we've thrown in the towel. It's him and Chris Stratton, where it feels like if Matt Quatrero is sending out one of those two guys, then the Royals have just given up on the game. Oh, we're down by 2 runs. Let's go ahead and toss Chris Stratton out there. Game's over anyways. Sam Long has been that this year. I think it's been 10 runs that he's allowed in 7 innings, which is just absolutely atrocious. And
Might have been
like you
12
said,
runs.
might have maybe.
It was a 12.48 ERA. I know.
Dang, that's tough. So all in all, both guys, I hope they get healthy quickly. The Harvey one, I think, hurts the Royals the most because Harvey was elite before he landed on the IL.
Harvey being hurt is probably why Sam Long pitched the 9th on Saturday.
Right, so.
I think that game was close enough that if you had all 3 of Harvey, Urseg, and Estevez available to you, you would go ahead and send Harvey out there for the 9th to try and keep it close. But you don't have him, so you're like, all right, well, I got to pitch somebody. Sam Long, let's see if you can find something.
Yeah. And thankfully, the Royals bullpen is still pretty fresh as they continue this 10-game road trip. I believe they're on to the Yankees next. They're heading over to Yankee Stadium.
I do have to say, though, that I have defended Matt Quatrero's tactical decisions pretty much since he came to Kansas City. I feel like he has mostly made good choices, but the last week or so, I have a lot of questions.
Okay.
I don't think I ever got to I said there was a 2-pronged problem of roster construction from JJ Piccolo. Why are MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfroe on this roster? But also lineup management problems for Matt Quatrero of you don't have to start them, even if they're on your roster. Like you have to play them sometimes, but you don't have to play them as much as you have. But then the bullpen stuff is starting to get a little frustrating this year. Daniel Lynch is on a scoreless inning streak, and yet there are times when he's come in after Long and Stratton have made sure the game is really out of reach. When if you'd gone to him instead of them, the game could still be close, and maybe the Royals have come back by now, and then you go to your better relievers. We saw last night, we saw Sam Long come out for the 9th. I think there's a logic to that, like I said, where if they have Hunter Harvey, maybe you don't go to Sam Long in that situation. But at the same time, you could have gone to literally anyone else in your bullpen, and it would have been a better setup for the 9th inning. Now, do the Royals score 2 off of Emmanuel Clase if they're only down 2? We don't have the answer to that, but we do know that they only scored 2 once they were down by 5. And then today, Cole Reagans is absolutely dealing. He's thrown 89 pitches through 7 2/3 innings, and Matt Quatrero pulls him with 2 outs in the 8th inning to bring in Lucas Urseg, his fireman, to face the number 9 hitter. Why?
Yeah.
Cole Reagans is dealing. It's the number 9 hitter. Why can't he he's not at 100 pitches yet. Let him finish the dang inning at least. And this is concerning for 2 reasons. First, Lucas Urseg is the best reliever in the bullpen.
You think so?
I like Carlos Estevez a lot. Lucas Urseg is better. That's why I keep calling Carlos Heart Attack Evez. He's good, but he's not elite like Urseg is. He's just not at that level. Urseg is almost to the HDH level. Estevez is more like a Hochaver Madsen level, okay?
Ooh.
That's where we're at right now. Good, not great. So Urseg comes in, he pitches to 1 batter. And that's all you get out of him for today. You warmed him up, you used him. If something bad happens in the 9th, you can't go back to him. As I was thinking, as Estevez fell behind Ramirez 2-1 after Stephen Kwan had led off with a single. What if
Yeah.
we need to go to extra innings? We don't got anybody. What are we
Right.
gonna do? You could have avoided this situation. And so I feel like he's not getting enough out of Lucas Erceg, and he really put himself in a bind if Carlos Estevez didn't close out the game, which fortunately he did. So fine.
Yes.
But process. The results were there. What was this process? It did not make sense to me. Now, I don't have access to the analytics that Matt Quatraro has access to. I don't have access to the knowledge of the pitchers and their states of health that Matt Quatraro has. So maybe there's a reason for it that I am not privy to. But I watched that and I go, man, I'm scared. Estevez is gonna send this game into extras and we're gonna lose it in the 10th inning because we don't have another pitcher.
Correct. Now, thankfully, he did close out the game, got 3 strikeouts after allowing that hit to Stephen Kwan. So we're not here talking about a Royals loss. We are here talking about a Royals win. But I'm with you on the process concerns. Go ahead.
I do still think that Matt Quatraro is good at the most important part of being an MLB manager, which is the part that Ned Yost was great at, which is keeping his guys focused and running in the same direction. The Royals play hard and they don't let mistakes snowball on them the way it happens to every team occasionally, but it doesn't happen to them the way that it happens to, say, Rocco Baldelli's Twins.
Man, that's a rough team right now.
Which is regularly and badly.
Yes.
So, like, Matt Quatraro is not a perfect manager. He's not a bad manager. He's something in between. And yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating, but also I'm really glad he's my manager and not Rocco Baldelli. There's a lot of that going for the Royals right now of, well, it could be worse. I made the comparison just to kind of veer completely off the road right now. I made the comparison in my Royals reaction video on TikTok last night of, would you rather be the Royals 7-8 and hanging tough against a bunch of playoff contenders, or would you rather be the Cleveland Guardians who have won exactly 1 game against teams not named the White Sox or Royals? So yeah, they're 4-2 against the Royals, they're 3-0 against the White Sox, but they're a 500 team.
Yeah. And they've gotten some pretty favorable matchups in those wins.
So which position would you rather be in? I think I'd rather be with the Royals right now and go, oh, we still got the White Sox to look forward to. We still got the Angels to look forward to, and maybe we'll play them better than the Guardians did.
Yes, I'm in the same boat with you on that. And I do think you bring up that context, right? You know, context is key in life, and it's still very important in baseball. When the Royals started the season, we knew that they were going to have a little bit of a gauntlet to start off the year. I get it. The Guardians weren't like a favorite to win the division. The Brewers weren't a favorite to win their division. What'd you say?
Depends on who you asked.
True.
They were favorites for some people. They weren't non-contenders. That's for sure.
There you go. They were, I think it was the first 7 series they had this year were all against playoff teams from the year before, or the Minnesota Twins, who are above 500 still, despite shooting themselves in the foot how many times they did in 2024. They had a tough opening slate. There wasn't any series that they could take a break against in the early season running.
With that either.
No, they're not. They still have 4 against the Detroit Tigers on the road in Comerica Park, and then they still have 3 against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, which is going to be very tough.
That's the Yankees and then the Tigers, right? Or is it the other way around?
It's the Yankees and then the Tigers. I did double check on that one. And then they come back to Kauffman Stadium, and then they get a little bit of a breather. A little bit, not a big one. But
the Rockies, I think, and then somebody else.
Let me look it up while I'm thinking about it, because frankly, I haven't even looked past the Tigers because of how poorly the Royals started off their first true road trip of the season. I know they went up to Milwaukee to face the Brewers, but a multi-series stretch on the road I consider to be a road trip, which, by the way, yes, they have 3 against the Rockies and then 3 against the Astros, who aren't looking as strong as they once did. And then after that, they hit the road again against the Tampa Bay Rays.
So easier, but not easy. I mean, maybe you consider the Rockies series easy, but that's it.
Yeah. They don't they have 4 against the White Sox in the first full week of May, but that's after they go to Camden Yards to face off against the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, there
Again,
is
not easy.
yeah. There is no like lengthy I can't look at a lengthy stretch of the season right now and say, yes, that is where the Royals will go undefeated or they'll win both the series with
Wait for the
100%
AL West
certainty.
road trip where we'll be like, "Oh, yeah, they could take on the A's and the Mariners and the Angels," and then nope, they went 2-7 somehow.
Yeah. I remember that last year. That was tough. Probably the closest thing that I could see that on the Royals schedule as we sit here today is they do have a 2 series road trip where they go to the Cardinals and then they go to the White Sox. I could look at that and say, yeah, they
Road trips
should
are
win.
always hard because they're road trips, so even
Yeah.
that is like,
Yep. And that's why I'm not 100% certain on it. All right. They got the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. I'm hopeful that Michael Massey really turns around this just slump that he's been in to start off the
maybe
season.
MJ Melendez can crank a couple over that into that short porch in right field and convince the Yankees he's their new left fielder.
I mean, he he has to hit the ball first. He has to make contact with the ball.
True.
Let's start there, Jeremy, okay?
Alright. I'm dreaming. Let me dream, Jacob.
Yeah.
There are
I
so few
will
dreams left in the world. Let me dream.
listen, if he has a great Monday night game against the Yankees, I will. I'm here in Virginia. Okay, I'll drive up to Yankee Stadium and I will go set up his locker for him in Yankees pinstripes and everything. I will go make that happen. If that is a gate that is preventing a trade from happening, I will open that gate for you. But hey, all in all, Jeremy, as we sit right now, Royals are 8-8. They are 500 through 16 games in the season. Things could be going better. Things could be going worse. The Royals right now have some glaring issues, and there's one thing that we haven't even had a chance to talk about yet, which I want to before we get to our final point. The fielding, the defense is just it was terrible against the Guardians. Like that was one reason why the Guardians had any runs today. A throw and error from Bobby Witt Jr. helped that happen, but this just isn't. Even the worst Royals teams were still good fielding teams. Like that's kind of been a staple for my Royals fandom growing up. At least I'm sure the early 2000s were pretty rough. I don't know, just this hasn't seemed like the standard for Royals baseball. And are you concerned about it at all? Or do you think it's just kind of a weird funk?
Well, the outfield defense concerns me, certainly. I'm Bobby threw that ball away and gave the Guardians basically both of their runs today. I know one of those counts as an earned run, but in my mind, if he makes a good throw, Noel's out. And by the way, great nickname, Big Christmas.
It is.
Such
It's
a
an
great
awesome
nickname.
nickname. Yes.
He throws him out too, and they score no runs in that inning. So but Bobby's Bobby. I mean, he's not perfect, but he 99% of the time, well, 95% of the time, he gets the job done. So I just write that one off. I think Michael Massey's looked pretty good at second base. Michael Garcia's great at third. I think India has looked fine both in third and in left when he's played. He's not India. He's not Alex Gordon, or excuse me, he's not Michael Garcia. He's not Alex Gordon, but
Yeah.
he's fine. He's
Yeah.
sufficient. He's better than Melendez, better than Adam Frazier. So
That too.
so it works, but yeah, the outfield, especially the corner outfield defense concerns me. I'm not super worried about the infield defense.
Okay. All right. I I just think it's something that Royals fans should keep an eye on because I think that something like that could have a big impact when it comes to morale in the clubhouse. When the bats are already struggling, at least things like fielding, things like base running are things that struggling players can say, "Hey, this is the thing that I did right today. Let's build off of that." But if you I don't think Bobby Witt Jr. is beating himself up about that play. But let's say he did. Well, maybe that transitions over into batting. Maybe that holds him back in that way, and it just continues to affect the Royals in a negative manner. Not saying it will, just something that fans should keep an eye on, in my opinion. Jeremy, so here's what I want to lead off So 16 games in the season. What is one reason that you have that Royals fans should not panic about the boys in blue? What is one thing that you say like, hey, this is one reason why I still have hope in the Royals?
Well, let's look at the standings. The
Okay.
Royals, after today's game, are 8-8, which makes them the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, seventh best team in the American League. They're right in the middle there. They're ahead of the Twins. They're ahead of the Rays. They're ahead of the Red Sox. They're ahead of the Orioles. They're ahead of the Mariners and Astros. If you look at the National League, they're ahead of the Atlanta Braves. They're tied with the Reds. They're ahead of the Rock. The NL West is just stupid. And again, they have only played good teams. The worst team they've played so far this season are the Minnesota Twins. And the Twins they have a lot of talent. I don't think they're well managed, but they have a lot of talent. And to take 3 out of 4 from them is huge.
It is.
So I think that's the thing and also here's a stat I'm gonna rip from our own Trenton Craxner in the Slack. He says the Royals are 6-1 on the season when they score 4 or more runs. They're 2-7 when they score 3 or less. Winning 2 games when you score 3 or less out of 9, pretty good. Winning almost every game when you score at least 4 is terrific. Their pitching has been phenomenal despite the bullpen hiccups. And despite the couple of bad starts. Speaking of bad starts, Cole Reagans, we were like, oh no, what's going on with Cole Reagans after his first start? He now has a 2.28 ERA with a 1.3 FIP, a 2.15 xFIP. He has more strikeouts as we record this. This could change because Logan Gilbert is still pitching today. He has more strikeouts than any other pitcher in MLB.
Dang.
As of this moment. 3 straight games with 10 strikeouts. And speaking of strikeouts, your pitch efficiency, 89 pitches to go 7 2/3 with his 10 strikeouts today. Why? Because he didn't walk anybody. Didn't give up hits, didn't give up foul balls, just got outs, just struck guys out. Strikeouts aren't what drive your pitch count up. Base runners are what drive your pitch count up. Occasionally, foul balls are what drive your pitch count up. This is the second straight game where Cole Reagans struck out 10 or more without walking anybody.
Impressive, isn't it?
That's on the season, 34 strikeouts, 4 walks.
It's insane. 4 walks.
He's striking out almost 13 per 9, and he's walking 1.5 per 9.
If he wasn't a superstar
this
before,
man locked up now.
For longer term, please and thank you.
Yes, buy out some of those free agent years.
Yeah.
Chris Bubich, the 5th man into the rotation. I'm going to pull up his numbers real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm not done. I'm sorry. He has 10.13 strikeouts per 9. That's a strikeout and a half fewer than he had when he was in the bullpen last year after shifting back into the rotation. Which gives him a 21.1% K minus BB percentage. Pretty good. 188 average against, 0.96 ERA, 2.87 Sierra, 2.56 FIP, 2.95 xFIP.
I'll play.
Yeah? From your 5th starter? Yeah?
That'll play. Yeah, I think that'll play.
Okay. Michael Walker's the only starter who hasn't been fantastic, lights out good to start the year.
Yeah. That's and
he's
you know
been
what?
Fine.
He's been fine. He's been what you kind of expect from a normal number 3 starter.
So if you're like, I should panic about the Royals, no, you shouldn't. The pitching is going to carry them until the offense figures some stuff out. And the offense will not be this bad all year. NJ Melendez will not be in the starting lineup all year. He is going to get demoted at some point. I promise you. I promise. It could be tomorrow.
It very well could be. Cleveland's not that far of a flight.
If he's still on the major league roster when they get back to Kansas City, I will be at least a little stunned.
Fair enough. And I don't think you're the only one.
Some big games.
Yeah. Barring just some massive games against New York. Maybe they give him the Yankee series to ride the bench, and then they're flying back to Detroit anyways. Detroit's not too far away from Omaha, so you just kind of put him on another plane and sayonara, we'll see you later on, maybe. But To your point about the pitching powering the Royals, that's how 2024 went. All right, the Royals had a 30-game turnaround, much due in part to the starting rotation's dominance. But I think that one reason why I'm not panicking yet is because for all the shortcomings of Carlos Estevez, for the mismanaging perhaps in Lucas Erceg, even with the injury to Hunter Harvey, I am much more confident in this bullpen right now than I was last year. Steven Cruz has looked very solid. I am a huge believer in Evan Sisk. I think the stuff is there. I think that he is going to be a guy. He's not going to rack up strikeouts, even though he's done that in AAA. I think that he is going to be a guy who limits runs, who keeps runs off the scoreboard. And that's not even talking about Daniel Lynch the fourth. Angel Zerpa has looked better. I'm not saying he's fixed, but he has looked better than what he did to start off the year.
Let me just interrupt real quick and say Angel Zerpa is better this year than he was last year, and he's the 5th best reliever
Exactly.
instead of the 2nd best reliever to start the year.
You know, that just speaks to the water line being raised in that bullpen. And, you know, you looked at it on paper and you squinted and you saw I would say a complete bullpen. Not a contender's bullpen, but a complete bullpen. Right now, I think this is a winning team's bullpen. And, you know, I get it. Chris Stratton is just a massive black eye on this team. Sam Long, his performance was a huge issue. I am still very much on the Chris Stratton needs to go bandwagon. But I think that even having him on the 26-man roster, this is a good bullpen overall. And that's one reason why I'm not panicking about the Royals quite yet.
You want to retract. Angel Zerpa is not better this year than he was last year. No. He's striking out the same as he's walking. He's giving up home runs left and right. Batting average against is 368. He's still pitching to a 4.06 ERA, and he's the 5th or 6th best arm in the bullpen. Probably, actually, with Sam Long on the injured list, he's probably the 7th best reliever right now. And again, he was the 2nd best reliever last year.
Yes, that he was. I will say in his past 3 outings, he hasn't given up a run. He's only allowed 2 hits, but he still has walked 2. Yeah. He had a pretty bad start to the year against Cleveland and Milwaukee. But if there's a reason why you think we should be panicking about the Royals or shouldn't be panicking about the Royals,
hear it, but please, you can tell Jacob.
Yeah, you can tell me. You can reach out to us. If you're listening on Spotify, I highly suggest commenting on the episode so that we see it and we can discuss it with you a little bit further. But Jeremy, I don't have anything else to talk about with the Royals. I'm very excited to see how they fare against the Yankees, who are looking like.
Did we want to see if we can convince more people to jump on the jack wagon?
Well, yeah. So let's go ahead. Sorry, Jeremy, I completely forgot that you had an update on the one and only Jack down in AA Northwest Arkansas. What you got on him?
So he's really fun. He's got a 124 WRC plus so far in AA. So 24% better than the league average down there at 22 years old. Still very young. Okay? Very young. 10% walk rate, only a 20% strikeout rate. Pretty good stuff. He does have a 16.8% swinging strike percentage, which is not good. But this actually maintains what he was doing in college, where everyone was like, he swings and misses a lot, but also he hits the ball really hard and he doesn't strike out as much as you'd think. So he's still doing that in AA Northwest Arkansas. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, obviously you'd like him to swing and miss less, but he's still not striking out. So maybe it's okay. He may be making some swing changes when he's got 2 strikes, though not too many swing changes because the home runs are 2-strike pitches that he still rips out of the stadium. He also, Jacob, had a opposite field single the other night at 120.9 miles per hour.
I heard that.
Which would be like, I think one of the top 10 hardest hit balls in MLB since they started tracking exit velocity.
It would be the hardest hit ball by a Royals player since they started tracking that.
Yeah, I think it's Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, O'Neal Cruz, and one other person has hit balls harder than that.
That's pretty elite company, no matter how you slice it. That's where you want your prospects to be at. Good lord. And the fact that it was to the opposite field is a little scary. Because that's not
That
even his
wasn't
pull
even a
side
pull.
power.
Right. And here's the thing. This is just to kind of give you a little bit of perspective on the difference between opposite field and pull field is that the launch angle revolution wasn't really a launch angle revolution. It was a pull the ball revolution. It was a get your bat out in front of the plate and hit the ball there, because your bat is going to speed up through your swing because of the way physics works, and your bat is going to be going faster as you get to when you get out in front of the plate. So if you pull the ball, your bat is going faster, you hit it harder. That's how that works. That's one of the reasons Maikel Garcia is better when he pulls the ball, no matter what they say on the broadcast. They're like, "Oh, he's hitting the ball the other way. Go look at his hit maps on Baseball Savant." No, he is not. All of his hits are pull.
Yes, all of them are.
But anyway, back to Jack Caglione. So your bat is going much faster when you pull a ball, because it's gone farther, it's going harder. Your bat's going faster, you hit the ball harder. Which means his bat wasn't up to full speed when he hit the opposite field single for 120.9 miles per hour.
Yeah, he's a monster. He's going to be a problem. But not yet, folks. If I see one more person saying, why isn't he playing the outfield yet?
Give it a month.
Just give it a little bit more time. I am begging you. Please be patient.
Not much more time, just a little bit more.
Yes. Because even
his prospect future value on Fangraphs is going to go up whenever they do if he hasn't already been promoted, it will go up at mid-season evaluations.
Yes, it absolutely will. He's already been climbing
at 50 future value. It's going up from there.
Yeah,
they're going to project him as a star by the time we get there. It's going to be great.
I'm very much looking forward to it. I think he's a 60. He's going to jump up to a 60. He's not going to creep up to 55.
At least a 55. It depends on how conservative they decide to be based on the swinging strike stuff. The ground ball percentage, by the way, 29.6%.
It's impressive.
Big guy hit ball, not on ground, is good.
Yes, it is. Because it's very good.
Remember, Eric Hosmer, he hit the ball hard too, buddy. But he hit it on the ground to the second baseman. And that's still an out.
Yep. Still out, no matter how hard you hit that. And I know Eric's been given a lot of shit over the years for his ground ball hitting ways. But no, I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited for Jack Caglione. But if y'all want to keep tabs on him, best place to do that is over at royalsreview.com. If there's anything on social media, Royals Review is going to amplify that. So go follow them on Twitter, Facebook, Blue Sky, the whole shebang. Jeremy, anything else to add before we get on to today's reviews?
Cole Reagans, man. Cole Reagans.
He is. If he wasn't a star before, he is.
They need to be Royals for the rest of their lives, both of them.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive. I mean, I don't disagree with you about the statement, but just imagine saying that to fans after the Aroldis Chapman trade. Or
I do think Logan Gilbert's going to be number one in MLB by the time the day is over. He's got 4 strikeouts through 2 innings.
Which puts he's mowing him down too.
Reagans is at 34 for the season. Gilbert's now at 29. So he just needs 5 more the rest of the day. He'll probably get there.
Probably
but second in MLB, still pretty good.
Yes, I'll still be happy about that. All right, Jeremy, let's go and get on to reviews. We're running a little long this go around. What do you got for a review today?
So I haven't really been able to watch a lot of secondary stuff. I'm in the middle. I just finished a rewatch of the first season of Shrinking. I'm going to watch the second season. Yeah. I'm starting the second season. I don't want to say too much about that yet, but I will comment on one of the last anime I was trying to watch while I was still trying to walk while watching anime every day. That I'm going to try and go back to it at some point. The problem is that it's a sub only.
Gotcha.
There's nothing. I don't do sub dub differentiation other than I can only watch subs while I'm exercising because I don't focus properly. If I'm not exercising, I'm whipping out my phone and checking things and losing track of everything. So, but this anime I was watching is called Girly Air Force and it's on Crunchyroll. And 13-year-old Jeremy would think it was the greatest thing that has ever happened to TV. So let me paint the stage. 13-year-old Jeremy was a sci-fi fanatic. 13-year-old Jeremy also loved jet fighters.
Okay.
Loved them. I spent actually this is more like 16-year-old Jeremy. 16-year-old Jeremy spent a year living in Washington D.C. Went to the Smithsonian Aerospace Museum where because I was so excited about that because space. But that's when I discovered like jets and how they led to rockets and all this stuff. It was like jets are really cool too. And then I watched movies like Iron Eagle. I never watched Top Gun as a kid, which I did
What?
watch it last year for the first time. Love that movie. It's outpaced only by Top Gun Maverick. So there's a couple free reviews for you. Anyway, Iron Eagle was my jam, man. That was like the kid, his dad is behind enemy lines and he steals a fighter jet and goes to get him. Like, that's my stuff, man. That's my stuff. So Girly Air Force is what if aliens invaded the world, but specifically China, and then we are having a really hard time shooting them down because they have much more advanced technology than us. But when we have shot them down, we've stolen some of their like technology and we grew some teenage girls with this technology and tied them to fighter jets, 3 specific fighter jets. So like it's not just fighter jets, it's like this fighter jet, like one of them's an Eagle, an F something Eagle. I'm sorry, I'm not 16-year-old Jeremy anymore. I'm not as obsessed with the fighter jets anymore. There's a Swedish fighter, and then there's another older American fighter. And they're like, we bound them together, these teenage girls with these jet fighters. Now they can fight the aliens. And it's like, yeah, jet fighters fighting aliens, cute girls. What's not to love? Adult Jeremy is a little like, really? We're doing this again? The only thing that adult Jeremy has going for him is he's like, well, at least the teenage boy who's the protagonist of this, because that's how anime works, is like he recognizes that they're basically children, even though they've, been grown to teenage girl sizes, and treats them that way. So that part's good, even if like there's still a lot of questions you could be asking yourself about why are we doing so much fan service even if the protagonist isn't in for it. But so that like 16-year-old person who loves jet fighters, the Girly Air Force is the way to go. Adult Jeremy is like, I would like to see more just because like I know how much 16-year-old Jeremy would have loved this show, but I can't say it's good. I can only say that it's got some stuff that 16-year-old Jeremy would have really appreciated.
There you go. I think that's a pretty honest look at it. I've seen some of the what's the word? Some of the criticisms against that show.
Really?
Yeah,
I had never heard of it. I just randomly saw it on Crunchyroll, and I was like, jet fighters, let's check it out.
I saw some content creators joking about it on my social media algorithm, and I did a little bit of a deep dive into it.
I think it begs for any reasonable person to mock it.
Yeah, that's what I was seeing. My review, just a quick one. I haven't had a whole lot of chances to watch TV or movies or things like that. I did finish up an audiobook over the week. I reviewed On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. I still highly suggest that book. But one that was kind of removed or a little bit even more zoomed out than On Tyranny was another book of his called On Freedom. He wrote it in 2023, released last year. I think it's great. I think this is a really good book. It kind of, growing up, my understanding of freedom was like freedom from X thing, like freedom from, state government, freedom from oppression, things like that. Snyder takes a little bit of a different stab at it and is looking at it like a freedom to do something, freedom to thrive, freedom to work together, things like that. So I did enjoy this book. I enjoyed I listened to the audiobook because I think that his stuff is easier to listen to than to read. But if you're looking for a nonfiction book that's not really political, but a little bit kind of blends politics with psychology, I guess, this is a good way to go. So, Jeremy, anything else before we get on out of here?
Cole Reagans. Just Cole Reagans.
Yeah, the only pitcher other than Kevin, I always say his last name wrong. Say it for me, Jeremy. Kevin Appier.
Kevin Appier.
Kevin Appier. Him and Cole Reagans, the only pitchers in Royals history to have at least 10 plus strikeouts in 3 consecutive starts.
See if Cole can do it 4 times in a row.
That'd be nice.
Well, he's gonna get the Tigers.
Yeah.
They'll swing and miss. He's had some real good games against the Tigers last year.
Yes, and we'll see how that game goes. He should have the second game, right? Second game in that series.
It's how my math adds up.
Yeah. Sometimes my math doesn't math very well, Jeremy. You know that better than most. So, all right, we're gonna get on out of here, get on with our Sunday evening. We do appreciate y'all joining us for the podcast today. If you want to connect with us, our links are down in the podcast description below. But this podcast wouldn't happen without the support of royalsreview.com. So please go check out the website. Go check out the growing team. A lot of new voices there on the site, and
It's exciting.
It is.
It's legitimately exciting. I am excited for I made fun of Trenton in particular because he said he was gonna crash out, and I'm like, no, now I know I'm old. Like, I'm familiar with that phrase, but it is not something anyone my age uses, which means we're adding young writers to the staff.
Yes.
And so I gave him some crap, but I appreciate him and I appreciate his voice, and I'm glad he's part of the team. And I'm glad everybody that we have on the team is part of the team.
Yes. So go check out the work that's over there. We're just two of the wonderful glowing minds that form Royals Review. But
speaking of glowing minds, I do have to shout myself out and say that as I was watching yesterday's game, I did predict Sam Long was going to the IL today.
You did. You called that right on the button. And I've loaded up Slack first thing this morning, and you had dropped in the link like, yep, it happened. And you are the noted non-overreactor, the noted ball knower of the podcast, Jeremy. It's just on brand for you, man.
Absolutely.
All right. I am Jacob Milham. They are Jeremy Greco. Thank you very much for joining us. And until next time, go Royals.